Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. You got Tanner here.
And Corey's here.
And apparently that's the last I'm going to speak today because Corey's like, really? You turned 2 cameras on for this?
Yeah.
Like,
it's my show.
You can't do the intro by yourself.
Yep.
Can you?
Dave is actually up working, speaking.
I know. Isn't that fun?
Making some money. So
Isn't that fun?
we're down here at FarmCon. It's our first time ever. This is a pretty cool event.
Yeah. Never been. And I would say I've never been to a trade show like this one. And I can't even call it a trade show. It's more like a conference that has a trade show.
It's a conference with a trade show.
Yeah.
Yep.
It started off saying everybody here is treated like family. So if you have a problem with being late to lunch, get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna talk about what they have to talk about, and so far the information's been really good. And then we knocked off this afternoon and did a couple of recordings.
Yep.
Made a new friend, talked to some old friends.
Yep. Yeah. So let's introduce this first guest.
You want to get right into the first one?
As he's getting a song up, you can always call or text us 515-207-9640.
Yeah.
What are you worried about these?
Not worried about them.
Oh, you're doing it that way.
Yeah, I don't have the cord.
Okay.
Remote setup.
Maybe.
I'll get it.
Closer.
I got
I'll
it.
take my mic away. This is one of my favorite ones, but I hate waiting for it to go. Today on the Farm for Fun show, we are live in FarmCon in snowy Kansas City. Boy, they got a few inches of snow and they don't know how to drive or move it or nothing. We take that for granted up in Iowa. We've got a guest that we wanted on several years ago, but he had me blocked. And you're going to hear that story. Stick around to the end because he's not sitting here next to me right now. He's a writer. He's an author. He's a comedian. He does corporate events. He's Extreme Ags podcast guy. He does a little bit of everything. Please welcome Mr. Damian Mason.
Yeah. This is probably the first time we've ever recorded in a suit jacket.
Yeah. I finally broke down and I grabbed a hat out there. I wear a hat.
Are we recording right now?
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay.
I wear a hat all the time. I had to. I did get blue to match my suit jacket, I guess.
So Damian, we know you, right?
Yes,
We've got a good idea as to who you are, but our audience don't know who you are. So how do you introduce yourself?
Debt is not always a bad thing when it comes to the ag industry, but mismanaged debt is a bad thing 100% of the time. Now, out of looking at hundreds of family farm operations over the past 5 years and looking at the financials, the number one thing that got these operations into a bad position wasn't just necessarily taking on debt, but it was mismanaging that debt or taking on bad debt, essentially, because they did not have the clarity in their finances to know whether or not they were making the right decision. This is the number one thing that people want inside this industry today is some level of financial certainty and confidence when it comes to making those decisions. And this is what we have been doing with hundreds of family farm operations across the country over the past 5 years inside of Legacy Farmer using our software called Farmer Metrics. Now, if you want to learn more about taking your operation from a place of chaos and disorganization financially to a place of absolute confidence and clarity so you're no longer shooting from the hip when it comes to making these massive financial decisions and just for the first time have some level of certainty where you're going into the next year, then go to legacyfarmer.com and sign up for a free call with our team today.
Well, I know you, and it seems to me your podcast probably is about the same age as mine. So going before that, I began the Business of Agriculture show. I'm in my 8th year, maybe close to starting my 9th, 380 episodes. And I knew about you guys, you knew about me, and it's a small fraternity. I find it interesting that people sometimes get competitive. I keep things generally friendly. There's a few people that have been real dicks to me in this space, and so I reciprocate accordingly. Well, when you work in agriculture, you got to realize there's a pretty small sorority out here, man.
Yeah.
And you keep pissing in the stream. Eventually, you're going to be one downstream yourself. So I think it's important to not do that. To your audience, my name's Damian Mason. Some of them might know me from the Business of Agriculture show. As again, it's been out now for 380 episodes, and we release it every Monday, so it's an every weekly show. I speak at agricultural events. That's sort of the ship that drove the fleet for a long time. I'm a farm kid from northeastern Indiana. I was raised on your basic Midwestern dairy farm of its era, who milked 60 cows and farmed some 500 or 600 acres of mostly rented ground. Didn't come from a very well-off farming background. My dad actually was raised on other people's farms milking cows as a herdsman's son.
Okay.
So that's the deal. I live in Huntington. I live a couple miles from where I was raised on a farm that I bought almost 20 years ago. My wife and I renovated it. I actually do own the homeland now since my mom died. So I've got about 300 acres that I own in Indiana. I live in Arizona half the year, which I do not like winter, although I travel to winter, just like we're both we're all three looking out the window right now in Kansas City, where there's they had 11 inches of snow, and it's still hovering around below 20 right now.
Yep.
So I speak at agricultural meetings. I produce the Business of Agriculture show, and I also work for a group called Extreme Ag. Yes. And that's been for about 3.5 years now. I produce Cutting the Curve podcast for them. I show up at events for them like Commodity Classic, field days that they each have. We work with corporate entities doing trials, et cetera, and educational information for farmers. So keep pretty busy. I also have a thing called the Business of Ag Success Group every other week on a Friday. Me and about 24 ag professionals get together for a network. I bring on guests, and we talk about issues impacting agriculture. So that's kind of what goes on in my life.
How do you have time to do it all?
Yeah, you guys produce one of these shows, and there's a lot of people, and we all know this, you've already survived it. It's the old thing about most small businesses fail within 5 years. I don't think most of them fail. I think they just give up. They just say, Jesus, this is a lot of work, so they just stop. Everybody and their sister, when the whole podcast thing came about, the dude and two of his stoner buddies would sit in the basement and say, dude, we should have our podcast. And they're good for 3.
Yeah.
And then after the 6th one's like, they're just sitting there and they don't have an outline. They don't have an actual topic. They aren't familiar with telling a story. And so they suck. So I treat it like a business. The good thing about a background in show business is I've always treated this as what other people see as humor, entertainment, kind of a lark. I ran it as a business. So when I quit corporate America in 1994 to be a comedian, which is how I got in the start, Purdue Agricultural Economics from the farm to Purdue, from Purdue to corporate, not in ag because in 1992 there was no jobs because we're coming out of the bad 80s. I'm a little older than you guys. Then worked in corporate, and then I quit less than 2 years into my corporate career to become a political comedian. And everybody thought, that's highly cute. That's really neat. 25-year-old kid's going to become a political comedian. You won't make it. Hell, nobody really makes it. You're doing open mic nights. You're doing $100 gigs. Well, good luck. Call us when you need your job back. That's kind of how it went. And I say, fuck you. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to treat this as a business. And so you do $100 gigs until you can do $300 gigs, and you do $300 gigs until you're doing $500 gigs, and then always worked at creating the act and putting the show together. And go back to your room afterward and sit down. It's 9:30 at night. You're sweating. So you just walked off stage. You're in front of a crowd. Everybody was drunk. You hadn't had a drop. You finally have your first beer at 9:30 at night. And you start writing down notes. That bit I did about the Great Wall of China sure works. So I've always treated it like a business. I treat this like a business. I treat speaking in front of an agricultural audience, and Corey's been in one of my audiences, as a business. Yeah, it's a show. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, we want it to be, laughing and all that. They don't need to treat it like a business. They're the audience.
Right.
I need to treat it like a business. And that's, I think, the important thing, whether it's creating a podcast or an act on a stage, is first off, running it like a business and also treating it like a product. This is a product. Farm for Profit is a product.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a product that you want to be consumed.
Yep.
And you want it to be sponsorable. Mm-hmm. And you want it to have value. And as long as you always look at yourself as a product, Corey, he's a farmer. But in this regard, he's a product that teamed up with Tanner and the other delinquent who's not here.
Yeah, David.
Yeah. No, that's a really great perspective. And that translates. But was it?
I'm sure I went so long on my answer.
Oh, no,
that
we
was
loved
great.
it.
That was great.
Wait, when you became a comedian, is that a lot of pressure? Is it a lot of pressure to be funny?
The being funny was the work. The being funny was going to the gym. The pressure was the money. There's people that, I guess if you're on a trust fund which I have no idea what that would be like. And you just get a stipend every month from Grandpa's trust fund.
Yeah.
You can endeavor into whatever you want. There's all
Sure.
kinds of people that endeavor into creative ventures. Oh, we all know the rich kid that's in a band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've made less money this year in your band than like Corey sold, a few stray soybeans and whatever. So I looked at it as the funny part. I was a funny kid growing up. I'm the youngest of a big family. My timing
many?
was good. 9. I'm the 9th.
Wow.
And so I had to be funny to get attention. I was funny in school, and I wasn't worried about the funny. I remember when I started selling the act, doing $100, $200, $300 gigs, and I talked to some agent and says, like, what's your act? You got these real cheese dick, like Chicago style, like, I'm an agent.
Yeah.
And it's before the internet. So what's your act? I said, well, I come in and act like Bill Clinton. I say funny stuff. Like, what do you say? I said, I say funny things, and for like 10 minutes, and I take photos.
Yeah.
Like, what? I said, well, give me a live audience and I'll show you. Because I didn't actually have an act written up, when I first started. I came in and said funny things. Then I started working on an outline of creating it, boom, boom, boom. So the pressure was for the revenue. The pressure wasn't that I couldn't be funny for 5 minutes, because starting out, nobody expects you to have a 50-minute set. You grow to a 50-minute set.
Yeah.
But you start with a 5-minute set.
That's true. I guess when I've gone to comedy clubs, you're right. There's an opener, and the opener's not up there for very long. And then the second guy is, maybe it's a little extra, twice as long.
There
And
you go. And
just-
then the headliner's a 50-minute set, 45-minute set, maybe an hour. Your middle act, and then your setup guy that's the opener, host, whatever. So, and I didn't do clubs a lot. I decided that I did clubs, but club audiences are stupid. They're not as bright.
Yeah.
And you get treated poorly, and they don't want to pay. And if you can do a corporate crowd, if you can be clean, if you can be a little bit intelligent, and having a corporate background, I had been in those corporate sales meetings.
Yeah.
You've been to these sales meetings. You can be funny and clean and a little bit more intelligent. You can get paid way better. And then when you get done, they come up and give you a beer. You work a comedy club, you want a beer and you get done, they charge you for it.
Yeah.
So
And I bought one of your books.
Yeah.
When I was, it's like,
actually, I think Hogemeyer Seed paid for it and then
maybe
gave
that's
it
what
to
it
you.
was.
Listen,
Maybe.
Corey, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Have you ever really paid for a book?
A few.
We've been buying books lately.
Have you?
Yeah.
And you're in the minority if you're a farmer who reads a book.
Right,
Because I
well-
get after my farm friends. I ain't got time to read. And I said,
It's in my ear. I do the books on tape.
books on tape. That's
Yep.
that's a big time saver.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's why podcasts are big, right? Like farmers spend a lot of time alone in a semi, doing chores,
Yep.
in a combine, tractor, whatever. Like instead of listening to the radio, heck, you might as well be learning something.
After the fourth version of the same song over, I can't imagine how you wouldn't be ready for something different. So, yeah,
Right.
that's
Right.
I want to know then what the transition was from these corporate gigs, the comedian side of things, to you don't have the comedy of ag podcasts. You have
the business of that.
right. So you're serious.
Yeah.
Like you're not cracking. I mean, you do have humor on the show, but that's not the driving message that you put out.
So there's a neat thing here. We don't know each other that well, but I'm very frank about this. The bad part about comedy, I enjoyed my comedy career. Comedy gets probably the least amount of respect for it. If you said, I pump out portable shit houses, or I'm a comedian, the portable shit house pumper probably gets more respect than the comedian. And you're a comedian? Oh, say something funny. Like, and like, do you do this to the asphalt? I run an asphalt paving company. Yeah, come pave my driveway for free.
Yeah.
So, that's the tough part about comedy. It jades you a little bit because you don't get. It's like, man, this is my job, and it's not just me. And like, Damian's kind of got a hard ass personality. Steve Martin talks about it in his book Born Standing Up. He was at the highest level. And if your listeners are like 25, Google Steve Martin.
That'd be Rachel.
That's true.
Yep.
Steve Martin, very famous, still does acting, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Saturday Night Live. You can go on and on and on. But
Yes.
he was a stage act before he was all that. He started as a kid performing at Knott's Berry Farm in Southern California, which is like a poor man's Disneyland, right? He talks about in his book when he hit the zenith of his success as a stage act in the 70s, how he was offended that they didn't have more respect for what he had created, that the people in the upper deck were drunk and yelling and screaming. And he said it took him a lot to realize, well, they're the customer and they paid, so whatever. But he took it very personally that there was not more respect for his craft and his creation. And I can understand that because comedy doesn't get much respect. So I know this is a long answer to your short question. I was not like, he talks about, he's like, I knew then that I had to get out of the stage act. He's like, at first I was very lonely. You're on stage in front of 1,000 people and then they don't respect, they're screaming and yelling. Yeah, you make a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. You go back to your room, you're still wound up and it takes you 4 hours to calm down and come off that high. And all you're thinking is, those sons of bitches didn't actually listen to I worked for a year on that bit and they didn't even listen. So there's a little bit of that. So there's a side where I was not like eager to get away from comedy, but to be not known as a comedian. Because when you walk into the sales meeting, oh, you're the comedian. Oh, you're the comedian. And then you're always like, okay, what's that mean?
Right.
What's the expectation for that? And sometimes it's very disrespectful. And I'm not being in any way like overly sensitive. I get it. I got paid. So there was that growth. And the other part of it is the growth. Evolution, you evolve in your career. Yep. And I looked at it as, how about the guy that speaks that is a former comedian and can still be funny? And also, because there's another thing that happens with comedy, people don't think you're smart. My comedy act was very specialized. I used to dress up as Bill Clinton. I was a Bill Clinton impersonator. Put on fat padding, makeup, gray hair, and come in and do, talk like Bill Clinton. Hey, how you doing? How'd you like to occupy a position on my personal staff? Whatever. Innuendo jokes and this kind of thing.
Hey, Monica.
The thing is, I would get done doing a show, guys, and then people would come up there and pose for pictures. That's something we always did. And they'd say, hey, you're really funny, but you're actually kind of smart. Yeah. I'm like, do you realize how goddamn degrading that is what you just said?
Yeah.
You're funny, but you're actually kind of smart.
Yeah.
So growth away from that was such that I guess it was maybe a little bit of personal pride and also shelf life. I don't know. Don't you all have that experience where the person is up there and they're still clinging on to what they started their career doing?
Oh, yeah.
And you have a little bit of somewhere between empathy and then also sympathy and then also now disgust for them.
Yeah. like I immediately just thought of professional football when you're saying that. You're thinking of some quarterbacks that it's like just maybe hanging up.
Yeah.
Rodgers.
Right.
Yeah.
Favre, Roger. It just and it happens on all sides of things.
And you don't want to be that person that was unwilling or worse yet unable to hang up the cleats. And so I guess I looked at it as growth. Then I became the ag comedy guy. And that's a hell of a change from being a political comedian to being a guy that does ag. So if I go to Corey's, Hogemeyer's seed sales meeting and I'm funny and I make a couple of points about ag and I'm funny, that's a pretty big, sea change from doing political comedy, which, there's another thing you talk about growth. I knew that political comedy had a shelf life because it was me dressed up as Bill Clinton. What people probably didn't realize is I needed to get out of political comedy altogether because look around. There's so much of a chasm between this side or that side, and there's so much hostility.
Yep.
So getting out of comedy was really also I talk about in one of my business books. You get typecast. You get typecast, and I've used this on stage before to illustrate something. I'm like, put up a picture of Larry the Cable Guy.
Yep.
Raise your hand if you don't know who this is. And then everybody, nobody raised their hand. I said, pretty funny, yeah. Name him, Larry the Cable Guy, yep. What if Larry the Cable Guy comes in here and wants to give you advice on investing? You laugh just at the very thought of it.
Yeah.
He's completely typecast.
Yeah.
I was in danger of being typecast as the guy who was Bill Clinton impersonator comedian, so I had to make a pretty big sea change to go and do that. And then I didn't want it to be, he's also now the ag comedy guy, because I'm like, I got pretty well one-trick ponied before. I don't want to be one-trick ponied into that. So that's why I started in 2012, made a concerted effort to be like, yeah, I'm funny, but also we're going to make these points about the future of agriculture. What? I read the Wall Street every day. I've read, hundreds of business books, and I've got a degree in agricultural economics. We're going to talk about some issues in this industry as well as be funny. That was really me not forcing it on to any clients, but selling it. And that's where the growth came because I guess I've been conditioned, trained, and now scared of ever looking like you're going to get treated as the one-trick pony.
Yeah. Who was your inspiration? Like, obviously you were funny growing up, but at what point did you go, oh, I could actually go make money at this? And then who did you look at, like Steve Martin or?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, growing up out on the farm, we didn't have HBO or anything. I watched Carol Burnett's show, variety shows, where in the 70s. And I always thought I could do that. Or Saturday Night Live. Or Benny Hill. Benny Hill reruns on the independent channel out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And when I'm, 14 years old. And you could only watch it during the summer because it came on at 10 o'clock at night. And God knows you couldn't stay up until 10:30 during the school year. So, I mean, I always was inspired by that kind of thing. Certainly, I never was taken to a club or saw much in the way of speakers or humorists or anything. We'd go to ag meetings, but it was like the local equipment dealership to give you a ham sandwich, and they'd play a video about the latest Case IH tractor or something like that. The motivation was creativity and compensation. And I think that's the part that if you're a farm person, you pride yourself on your work ethic. Maybe some farm people give themselves more credit for work ethic than they really deserve. But I never was afraid of the work. And I was more concerned if I stayed with this corporation, compensation and advancement would be more predicated on my ability to politic versus my ability to perform. And that obviously is a very common lament among anybody in corporate. So the compensation and the creativity was the driving force to quit and do this. As far as looking at people, I mean, I think there's some really good performers out there, and there's some that aren't. I mean, obviously Larry the Cable Guy. The problem is I looked at that, and when he got his rise, is when I was already making the adjustment to not be Bill Clinton anymore, and I'm like, and that dude's gonna have the same problem as me. Granted, with another comma in the earnings, probably.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is kind of wild. When you use that example, I was thinking of Shaquille O'Neal. Same thing. Big dumb guy, can't make a free throw.
Yeah.
But yet he's a bazillionaire with all the businesses and investments that he's made and franchises that he owns and commercials that he does. You can't typecast anybody anymore. And, that sometimes comes across that same way in agriculture. I know we've had interviews with farmers that are much older than all of us, and you wouldn't expect them to know how to run GPS, but yet they're the forefront of their farm operation as to what's adopting new technology.
Talking about Shaquille O'Neal. Any of these people, now you can say, oh, he wouldn't have had to do anything. He wouldn't have. Okay, you just take his Orlando Magic revenue, and then it was a Laker, and then he was somewhere else in between. I don't remember. Was he at Houston?
Did he play Cleveland for LeBron? Or no, it was the Heat.
No.
He was down in
Miami Heat, probably.
Miami,
yeah. So anyway, if you just took the contract from any of those 3 or 4 NBA teams that he played for, it'd be certainly more than anybody else's that's listening to the show's career earnings. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way being insulting.
Yeah.
But the desire to keep doing something and refreshing it, that then keeps it so you can get an Icy Hot commercial. That then makes it so you can then get in line for this. And then because of your staying out there and staying sharp and not letting yourself go, you get invited to the meeting where they're talking about pooling investments to do this. So I mean, when you think about that, it'd be a lot easier to do nothing. But I mean, it's clearly not just about the money for this at this point. He's probably also in a similar thing where he said, I don't want to be typecast as just the big dumb guy that couldn't make free throws.
Yeah.
What just came to my mind is the fact that we've got some of our listeners that are probably known as the corn and soybean farmer. And they maybe don't get the opportunities, or they wonder why their neighbor always gets the acres. Why does he always get the opportunity to rent the ground? Well, there could be a typecast out there around what you've been doing. You've just always been the guy that works part-time in town and has a little bit on his farm. I didn't think you had capacity to pick this up. So that's why I didn't ask you. I mean, we even get that sometimes from companies that want to work with us. They're like, "Wow, we figured you're busy, and we didn't know you're going to be here," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So the point is, if you don't put yourself out there now granted, you need to be known, and you need to be known as being proficient at something in that regard. So,
Sure.
Yep. You don't want to be to where you're all over the place and you don't have something. But then, like you say, when you get typecast can be a lot of things. I used the showbiz example. When you just used the farmer example, it can go to a lot of businesses. If it gets to where they think that you don't have breadth or range, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's really the same thing.
It's that guy with a pickup. You know, when you're young and everybody's moving apartments and apartments, if you're the guy with the pickup, you always get asked to move in.
So I bought
I
bought an enclosed trailer, right? Because I had the pickup, and everyone. I moved so many of my friends. I bought an enclosed trailer, and I said, just take the trailer, and that's my. You can go move yourself.
But you didn't get the pizza. You didn't,
No,
that's right.
Well, I had enough pizza. I got tired of moving. Oh man.
Yeah, you just get to that age to where you're either always going to weddings or you're always going to
helping your friends move.
Yeah.
Then remember the final one is always going to funerals.
Yeah.
And we'd like to not quite get there.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
We're gonna drag our feet on that one for a long time.
So what was the first thing you quit your corporate job? Was the first gig going to some corporate?
Probably a private event. There was 3. I had 3 gigs lined up when I quit my job. So with an average of probably $600 or $700 of actual gig money. So I had like $2,000 of revenue lined up when I quit my job. And I remember a lot of people saying, "Good God, aren't you concerned about this?" I said, "Well, I've got some Purdue money to pay back. I got a loan. I got a car payment."
Yeah.
I said, "You know what? I bartended when I was at college. I said, if my act doesn't sell, I'll just grab a few nights at some tavern and make a little cash that way." So it became a sales thing. It becomes a thing of, again, running like a business. You work on the act and you work on the creativity, but you've got to also sit at the desk and make phone calls and then keep a file. So all that stuff that my wife gave me a wonderful compliment when she worked in corporate. She hasn't for 10 years. She works with me. She says, I'm in a sales role, and I said, she says, everything I know about selling I've learned from you. I didn't get trained. I said, wait a minute. She says, you've got a follow-up file. You have a prospect file, and you have an actual follow-up file, and you date stuff, and you take notes about it, and then you vary how you reach out to these people. Phone call, then an email, then a postcard, then all this. It really was that way with the Clinton thing way back when, and then it's probably the same as anything. It's managing it as a business, but also making sure that you do the outreach.
Well, I know she does a good job because I tried to connect for one of the Farm for Profit conferences to have him come down, and he was busy. Schedule was busy. But she did so well that she, 2 or 3 years later, she sent me a message saying, "I know that your event is typically the first week in December. I understand it's early. We'd stop doing the conference." But she still had I assume it was her on the back end of the email.
Sure.
But
yes, is Lord.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just part of the business. So what else we got?
You got a question? Otherwise, I was going to.
Corey has a question.
I was just going to say that it's funny because Tanner and I do the same thing, but with 2 people.
Yeah.
He is the business, and I'm just the creative and
You're the
F off
relationship.
guy.
I mean, it doesn't do what it does with us together, including Dave. Doesn't want to be if we are all doing it by ourselves.
Yeah, and Dave just comes in on 2 wheels, and
we've already established that he's deadbeat who's not here.
That's
We've already
right.
established that.
He's
working.
going to love that.
He's
we need
working.
to clip that. Yeah.
He's making money.
So I want to know, as we look into 2025, this show's going to air within 10 days ish of recording this.
Mm-hmm.
What are the challenges when you look at farming as a business? What are we facing? I mean, we got some obvious, but what are you seeing?
All right, so I get in trouble because I'm an ag guy, obviously, and I work in agriculture, and I've got listeners that are. We have listeners that we share, whatever.
Yep.
Obviously, I take the more business side. I have probably a lot more people that work in industry, and you have more people that are actually in the production side. I get in trouble because I say, you know what? Why do we have to go through this fire drill every time there's a downturn when we know that USDA policy since the 80s has always stepped up and thrown money at ag? And then farm people get very mad, very bristly. Well, it doesn't make us whole, and you don't understand. You're not a real farmer. You don't understand my expense structure, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. Understand the difference. My brother Eric has been with the United States Department of Agriculture his entire career since 1885. So he's 40 years, 1986, 40 years. And he even said, he was on my show, and he says, you know what, USDA policy since the 80s, we haven't allowed people to just have a big washout. There's going to be some prop up. So, yeah, we're in a downturn, but unless history for the last 37 years isn't accurate, there's going to be programs that swing in here. Mm-hmm. There's going to be consolidation. We're at the FarmCon conference. We just saw this. We've got people in here that farm 20,000 acres are looking to expand. There's going to be consolidation. We just saw a graph. I think you might have been in the room. Said 89,000 in 2022, so 3 years ago, 89,000 farms of the 2 million produced 75% of all the dollar value of crops. It's probably down to less than 80,000.
I think it was. I think I wrote this down.
It's less than 80,000 now, probably.
Yeah.
That are there.
It's 43,000 farms produce 75%.
Okay, so that was
even
lower.
Projection.
That was the projection.
Even lower.
I think that was the
I mean,
projection for by 2030.
Yeah.
But okay,
Yeah.
Either way, we're in that 45 to 75, whatever number. The point is that's going to continue. And the consolidation has been going on since the 1930s. We hit peak farm in 1935 with 8 million farms, and now we're down to less than 2. And of the 2 million that we have, again, 50,000 of them are cranking out 3/4 of the stuff. I'm not being mean, I'm being honest. USDA policy still favors small farms. The New York Times won't tell you that because the NPR says, and all these bailouts go to factory farms, whatever that means, because it's just a meaningless term they came up with. In general, USDA always puts caps.
Yeah.
They can't take more than a certain amount, so it favors smaller operators. You can be a smaller operator. You can be that person that farms 400 acres, has a job in town. You're probably going to be able to play some USDA policy, get your crop insurance, do all that, make money. What I think the big picture is,
are you ready to power through your harvest? Meet the Maya corn heads. They're designed for maximum efficiency and unmatched durability in the toughest of conditions.
With precision engineering and advanced features, Maya Cornheads ensures every kernel counts, giving you the performance and reliability that you need. Get more from your harvest with equipment built to last.
Reach out to your local Maya Cornheads dealer or visit mayacornheads.com to find your perfect match today. Maya Cornheads, harvest with confidence.
My big predictions are, Tanner and Corey, that I think we're going to start seeing a shift, and it could be the RFK influence, or it could be the social media influence. We've been focused on quantity for 100 years, and by God, we figured it out.
Oh, yeah.
We have mountains, literally mountains of corn and soybeans and wheat, and name the commodity. I think there's going to be a push to nutrient density and nutrient content, where we pay not just 56 pounds for number 2 yellow corn. It's going to be, what's the protein content in there?
Yeah.
Can it be grown regeneratively? What's the carbon associated with that? And that CI score and all those kind of things. There's going to be those attachments to it, because why wouldn't there be? We've got production mastered. And someone says, yeah, but you're starting to get crazy. You sound like one of the organic guys. No, I'll give you a better example. From the Model T 20 years ago with Henry Ford, where it was an affordable black. Remember, it was his old joke. You can have any color of Model T you want.
Yeah, as long as it's black.
As long as it's black. Well, are we still there? No, because we mastered the ability to produce a car, a simple means of transportation, and so now it became a Model T, then another model, then a model that has electric locks and power brakes and air conditioning and now navigational control and all of that. So why wouldn't our food do that? And that's where food's going to go. So if you use the Model T to today, we were challenged to make bushels of corn, and at the same time Model Ts were a challenge to make an affordable car.
Yep.
We're not there now. That's where food's going to go, I believe. I believe we're going to get more into nutrient quality, nutrient density, the environmental aspect of it. What's your carbon intensity score associated with it? Regenerative practices, traceability, I think, comes into this space. And rather than lamenting that, if you're a producer, you should look at it as a chance to value add.
Get to it.
Look at a chance just like Ford looks at it, the chance to say, we know that everybody doesn't want this, but by golly, we can charge a premium and we make more money on the, I don't know, whatever the.
Well, that's the history. That's the history of tractors. We got to interview Neil Dahlstrom last summer, and his book Tractor Wars.
Got the book on my shelf. I've yet to get into it, but it's a.
So it starts off talking about the Model T.
Okay.
Because Ford then goes into making a tractor of his own, but wants to build the tractor the same way and concept that he had for making it affordable with the Model T.
Yep.
So everybody would have a Ford tractor to be able to do the small and things on the farm. But John Deere came in, bought Waterloo Boy, and went the opposite route of, we know that Ford's making a tractor that's barely making any money for him,
Yep.
but he wants one to be on every single farm.
Yep.
Let's design a plow that hooks up to a Ford tractor, and then let's make our tractor the premium one.
Uh-huh.
So we're not going to be on every single farm, but we're also going to make the right margin, make sure we have the features in this that aren't going to be inefficient.
So if you use the tractor as an example, Tanner, and you look at the farming, and I know that, again, a lot of times farmers bristle at some of this, why wouldn't you look at – first off, it's coming. I mean, unless I just am dead wrong, which I don't think I am, this movement's coming, and it's going to be about nutrient density, quality. The food story is going to evolve into, is it regeneratively raised? Did your llama come out and blessed by a rabbi and poop on the strawberries?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that story is,
Yeah.
if you can make money at it, what the hell difference does it make? You should do it, because the ability to produce a bushel of corn or make a Model T, we've got that mastered long ago. That's where I think things are going. I got another prediction a lot of people don't like to hear, but I don't see any way around it. Eventually, the federal monies are going to get more scrutinized. We obviously are in a very urban and suburban population. We got less than 17% of the population lives in rural. Less than 1% of us farm. There's going to start to be a little bit of, I believe, more scrutiny on this. And with that scrutiny might start coming the cries of water. Why are we growing corn in eastern Colorado and in the panhandle of Texas when they get 4 inches of annual precipitation, when we already have more than enough corn where you're from and where I'm from, in Iowa or Illinois or whatever, Indiana, whatever that should be. So I think there's going to be a little more scrutiny, and I actually see a decrease in farmed acres. Marginal land will revert. I did a video about that, and boy, people got mad. I think they believed I was insulting their property. I said, if you're highly erodible, rocky, rough, low productivity, or require water in a water-sensitive, depleted area, and I just named several of those places that are, I think that land reverts to maybe CRP, maybe grazing, hunting-type property. We don't need it.
Yeah. We heard that conversation, the speakers, right before break this morning. Kind of saying the same thing. It's interesting. There's some contradictory when it comes to soybeans, right? For where the value product is coming, it's the value add. It's in the oil, it's in the meal.
That kind of stuff.
I've had people kind of get mad at me too for the same thing, like the traits in corn and the genetics that we've done. Like, we've come so far, it's allowed them to raise corn without as much water on the marginal lands, and right here in the heart of the Corn Belt, our yields have gone up, but nowhere near the percentage that they've
Corey,
gone up out there.
Corey, I'm in Alberta doing a gig, and there's cornfields, and I'm talking like getting close to Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell thought you should grow corn up there? So they're doing it because the incentive is there, and I think that incentive is going to start to go away. I mean, we also heard about government programs here. We heard about the chunk of money being tossed at agriculture. Well, that just creates more incentive to create surplus for something that we – I just was in a discussion yesterday, and I'm going to be covering this more. I remember the 80s in government cheese, where there was so much dairy product, the government then decided to help the dairy farmers by buying up the surplus milk and then making this really crappy, not good cheese. And then they gave it to the schools. And they gave it, if you were poor, welfare, whatever, you gave it cheese. By God, if all you had to do is walk down a sidewalk and somebody's going to give you cheese. It was about that bad in the 80s. They had so much of it, they were like storing it in caves.
Yeah.
People think I'm making this up.
I've heard they still have caves of cheese.
And so the thing is, are we going to start doing this with corn?
It's finer with time.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly wouldn't have gotten worse if you had government cheese in the 80s. But here's what I'm saying. Are we going to do this with corn? A year from now, we're going to be in a situation where, we're still paying farmers because we want to keep them in business, but we got all this corn. We're stuffing it in caves. It's right next to the government cheese. At some point, there's got to be some give.
I hope you're right in we're going to find more nutrient-dense type stuff. A, it's probably healthier, but B, we're going to have options, right? One of my biggest deals is I can only really grow corn or soybeans, maybe hay. I can't grow wheat because there's nowhere to take it in central Iowa.
And also
you
got some
battle the humidity.
Yeah,
Right.
you're dealing with more rust and fungus because of the weather conditions.
But we don't have a
That's
market for non-GMO corn. We don't have a market really for this or that unless you want to truck it halfway across the country.
Imagine, since you're in Iowa, because you have such a propensity to create huge corn and soybean crops, let's say, but then the person that's in a little bit I don't know, name somewhere that's certainly no Iowa. I don't know, maybe southern Ohio or something like this.
Yep.
Maybe then they have the ability closer to a population center to sell golden corn. Like, what's golden corn? Well, golden corn is regeneratively raised, and it doesn't use GMOs, and it's more. It's got more nutrient density, so it goes to human food products versus for ethanol there.
I have wondered that the division of grains that go into hog feed versus that goes into an ethanol plant. That just these are the hybrids that have these characteristics. That you're growing ethanol corn.
Well, Syngenta tried that.
Well, with Anagen.
Anagen, yeah.
Yeah.
But I see that happening for at least the human. Then it's what this is cow corn. This is ethanol corn.
Right.
This is corn that ends up in Doritos.
I mean, in a way, they're kind of they grow white corn. Right?
Yeah,
right?
but it's not quite at scale where it could be for as much corn as wheat.
Right. Sure.
In the center of the store kind of stuff, in a bag or in a box. The stuff that doesn't go through a pig to become human consumable makes you wonder if that's where we go. And then they say, so we're going to put another 40 cents on that. There's another 40 cents on that human corn that Corey's going to grow because there's a place in Waterloo that's now processing non-GMO, not corn for ethanol, and it's going for corn oil.
It is crazy what you can do with corn, though. Did you know that corn is in Lululemon?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Starch.
We learned that.
No,
it's what they call it. It's a new technology that they spin out of it, and it's something to do with like the stretchy spandex side of things. So
Actually,
it's a great invention.
Yeah.
Yoga pants, I mean.
Yeah.
Talking about the corn.
Yeah, I know. You probably wear them around. Yeah.
I appreciate other people wearing them.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's very fair.
Yeah. I actually, after we learned that, I'm a consumer of Lululemon. I gave my wife a gift card there because I have no idea what she would like.
But you want to see her in yoga pants.
Yeah. Yep. She got a pair last week. Made her model them for me. So
that's good.
Very nice.
Yep.
So I know we're the ones that are tight on schedule today, but we appreciate you connecting with us. Even though we ghosted you on the drive down here, we're like, I'm going to call you on the drive.
We were on the phone the whole time.
We called everybody else except Damian.
Yeah.
No.
I've got a question before we let him go. So this should have happened years ago. I came on the podcast. He started in 19. I came on in 20 when there was nothing to do during COVID. And we're brainstorming guests. Like, who should we have? I'm like, Damian. I saw him speak. Yeah. Right? I enjoyed that. Everyone was laughing. I think you made a joke about my beer that I had with your book or something like that.
I said the same thing. I said, I tried getting Damian to come speak. He just was busy. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah. And
you never had me on the show.
So this is where the question is going to be. I go to Twitter to go, I'm gonna get Damian and DM. I go to your deal. You got me blocked. What did I do?
I did?
You blocked me on Twitter.
Man, I don't know about
this
that.
goes back to his reciprocation. Like, I must have just been an asshole to him at one time or something.
I don't think so. I don't
you were the guy. You took the book and you said, "Don't sign this.
I
can't read."
I don't think so. That thing for Hogemeyer went very well.
It did.
And then how you got on that, I don't know.
I want to know what. So if I go to my Twitter,
I'll look it up right now and unblock you.
I can't even.
Anyway, we'll get it. Well, you know what happens, and again, maybe you get a little jaded on this. Having done the stage for so long, then people decide that they want to be degrading online. It wasn't you, I'm sure. There's probably someone that wanted to pop off. We used to have a thing on Twitter where it was people would go on there, and anything I pointed out about an industry going on is that I'm stupid and I've never really farmed, which is not true. I was out there from the time I was 8 farming. And so that's where I got real gun shy about anybody that so much as decide they're going to just pop off. I'm like, all right, first of all, I know who you are, and this thing that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I did go through a while where I did a lot of blocking people.
Yeah, I must just got in collateral damage or something. But
He's fat fingered.
I even asked Kelly Garrett's a good friend of mine,
fingers.
and I'm just like, what the hell? Why has Damon never said anything about me? He's like, no, I don't understand.
No,
that's good.
No, I remember you guys hollering at me about an event. I was now since we're going ahead and we're doing this is like Festivus.
Oh yeah.
The airing of grievances.
Yeah, there we
Corey.
go. There we go.
So and for your young listeners, go back. You have to Google that also. Festivus, and, a famous Seinfeld episode from
Yes.
the 1990s.
I
where
still love watching reruns.
crazy Frank Costanza, because he was tired of the commercialization or the religiosity of traditional holidays, decided to create his own holiday, Festivus, where they put up an aluminum pole, and two of the tenets of Festivus were feats of strength and airing of grievances, which is funny. I was raised in a very conflict-oriented household. We had airing of grievances not just on every holiday, but on every day.
Yeah.
So since I need to unblock you, you got to apologize.
I'm sorry.
No. It's nothing about the Twitter things. I don't even know what the hell that's about. You got to apologize. You stole Ambrook from me as a sponsor.
Really?
We stole them?
You scooped me right out of that.
Oh wow.
See, now they're getting a mention, so they're going to say, I'm really glad that we did this right here, because we're saying, hey, man, those farm for profit guys are helping me sell more on-farm accounting.
You need to tell them to spend a little less on Facebook ads, because
Holy
they are
smokes.
they've got to have $500,000 dumped on Facebook. If you've been,
But aren't they sponsoring you?
They are.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
It's
a small campaign.
yeah. And I think that's an interesting area. Like, we went to supper last night, didn't know what the conversation was going to be in a part of, but it started off with us having to defend and say, we, like you said in the beginning, we can't have enemies in the business. We can't have people that we consider competition, because it's not a very big area. And like you said, pissing in the stream, if you're the guy that starts doing that, or you're the team that starts doing that, you aren't going to last very long.
Yeah.
You try to work with and do as much as you can all across the board. It's one of those things that, whenever there's an heir apparent, you can't go that route.
Certainly with the companies, I would play nice. Yeah, there's a few individuals in the space that they just decided, I don't know. It's a little bit like I was out here for a long time, so I think I had a target on my back, because it was like, hey, I want to make a name for myself out here as being an ag personality. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and harpoon this dude that's in front of me, because I've been around a long time, man.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You start realizing longevity. 31 years. I mean, I'm in my 31st year of this. Back in the old days of political comedy, I can start naming clients that are now not even in business. It's like Montgomery Ward or something. Naming old corporate names that we might know from our childhood. Like, oh yeah, that was a client. They're gone.
We've talked about doing that. I enjoy history a lot, and Corey, loves buying old things.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
What do you buy?
Just go.
Just a little bit of everything.
Seed
like
sacks
this pen is a like a 70s, just a weird pen, something weird, something cool.
But going through these old ag companies that have now merged or don't exist or have died, and telling that history of, okay, this is how they got started, what they did, and then this is how they no longer exist.
Yeah. Well, I was I had a wagon out, a Parker wagon, right? And it on the side of it, probably from the 70s, it says Chariot of the 80s, Chariot of the 80s. And I'm like, who has that forethought to go, this is the Chariot of no one's putting that on the side of a Brent grain cart or a Brandt grain cart. Like, this is the Chariot of the 2020s.
Yeah.
This
is the grain cart
and
of
then
the 2000s.
I just found myself, what happened to Parker? Where'd they go? Who bought them up?
And they got absorbed probably.
Right?
We had there's a Parker gravity wagon in my hayloft. The wheels are off it. The running gear is off it. It's up there. It's on blocks. And it was the feed bin when I had cattle. And it was there when I bought the property. Have a feed truck come in, auger up 5,000 pounds into it, and then use it with buckets. And every time I look at that, we had two of those Parker-type gravity wagons in the 70s on my farm. I think they were maybe 100 bushel grain carts.
Yeah.
So what's a combine's grain hopper?
yeah.
400 bushel now?
Yeah, 400.
So you didn't need four of those little boogers just to do one dump.
Yeah.
It all seems so quaint and old compared to modern stuff. So it's funny you talk about the Parker thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, are you on tour this winter? Are you hitting?
I'm gonna be a lot of places. I'm here next week. I'm going to Missouri for a group. I'm going to Chris Barron's conference in 3 weeks down, and he has an executive summit. Then I'm going to be in February, bumping out a lot. Also got a new show called The Granary. So if you like farm for profit and you like agricultural stuff, I encourage you to check out my show, The Granary. It's with my friends from Extreme Ag. It's shot on my farm, in my on-farm tavern, an old converted granary, that we've got the keg box and we've got the table, and we sit there and we talk about real issues affecting agriculture. So that's kind of a cool thing. You can find that on YouTube. Just type in Extreme Ag in the Granary. I'm speaking at conferences, and I've got the Granary show, and then I've got my Business of Agriculture show, and then all of a sudden we hit spring. The winter always just flies. I end up then having a few weeks in Arizona with no travel, and then it's time to go back to the farm. So it's the way that always works. Yeah. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
I hope
Do
you
you
had
feel
fun.
Was it cleansing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been sitting around like, God, he's got me blocked. I got to figure this out.
You should have just called me. I don't know. Yeah, it was collateral
I
damage.
think I tried to DM you. I couldn't even DM you. Like, it's like,
I don't know. I feel bad about this because I don't know.
Well,
I mean, collateral
We're
damage.
actually not going to air the whole show. We're just going to clip that part.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I think cathartic is the word. Where it's somewhere between cleansing and also gets your soul feeling better about yourself.
Yeah. No, we're all just.
Corey, I feel like
it's Festivus. now.
we might embrace. I mean, we might have to.
I'll make sure I'm behind the camera and catch that.
Jeez.
No, it was our pleasure. Hopefully you had as much fun as we did, Damian.
I appreciate this, and I hope your listeners, you know what? I mean, I want Ag to have a good year every year. 25 is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think there's going to be some adjustments made, and there always have been. You know, we've been in this business our whole lives. Adjustments come, adjustments go, and we're still here. So I think that there's going to be a little bit of. I think it's just going to be a way you think. That's what I guess. You know, if I was going to leave something with an agriculture person, I think it's going to really favor the entrepreneurial-minded agricultural producer. And we even saw some of that about personality types on the farm in this presentation in here at FarmCon. So I think it's going to really start to shine through.
So if people want to book you for a gig or partner with you, how do they get hold of you?
DamianMason.com. Obviously, don't try and find me on Twitter because you might have pissed me off. I don't know.
It might be blocked.
We love it. No, thank you so much, Damian. We appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet.